Alright, no long drawn out intro, just gonna go right into it. So, to begin with, the draw attack. The draw attack is good because it'll help close some distance between you and the monster, like so. It's a nice move, just something to keep in mind. You can also draw into axe mode by pressing R2, but personally I rarely do that unless I have full files. Now the basic combo of 3 triangles, triangle, triangle, triangle. That last hit has the highest motion value, which means it's the strongest, and it'll help build your files up quicker. So, how to get files? Well, the circle attack, which is the basic circle attack, which is a charge move, will build your files the most. So like so. Now if you don't charge it long enough, you'll get a weak hit like that. Or if you overcharge it, you'll get the weak hit yet again. But if you time it just right, you'll get some files. Now do bear in mind that I am running focus and the capacity boost on here. So I have 6 files instead of 5. All charge blades come with 5 files. And then focus actually helps me build my files up quicker, and it actually decreases the charge rate of this move, which is interesting. So as you see, my files are red. What that means is I can actually charge up 5 or 6 because I have capacity boost. If your files are yellow, that means you can charge up 3. So the general rule is yellow for 3, red for 5. So to charge them, you hold R2 or block and then press circle. So I have files now. So another good way to build up files is by this neat little combo. Although it's not as good as previous games, it's still okay. You do triangle, triangle, circle at the same time, simultaneously. Triangle, circle, and just loop it. Again, it's not that great, but it is nice to get some quick damage out there. Now, moving on. This right here, this basic combo, the triangle, 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 can actually be comboed into the side step by holding a direction and pressing circle. You can also do it forwards, which is a very important move, and I'll explain later. You can also do it right, and then you can do it backwards as well. It's a very neat move for repositioning. Highly recommend it. Now, the fun part, the file attacks. So to transform into axe mode, you're gonna want to hold R2 and press triangle, just like that. Now for the basic combos. Now bear in mind, just like the draw attack, when you're in axe mode, if you hold forward and hit triangle, your character can close distance between a monster. And then this is just the standard triangle combo. Attacking in axe mode isn't really recommended, although it is heavier hits. It's still it's not nearly as good as you could be doing. Now for triangle, when you're in this mode, if you have files anyway, you can actually have those files go off just like that. Now this is an impact charge blade, this is impact file, which I'll explain later what the difference is between the two and how you should use them. But what you want to do is, you can have this combo right here, this standing combo. Then you can go into an amped elemental discharge, just like that. That is the preferable way to play impact file instead of just expending all of your files in one attack, which I'll explain later. So, that being said, whenever you do a amped elemental discharge, you'll be put back into sword mode. Now this is fine, because what you can do is, you can do triangle as a startup, do triangle circle, shield bash, and then you will be able to go right into another discharge if you tap triangle and circle again. It's like that. So, with that being said, we shall move on to, I suppose, the more advanced stuff now. So, this is where it gets fun. So I'll build up my files. So, we're going to, instead of hitting an amped elemental discharge, what you're gonna want to do, I should also note real quick, in order to return to sword mode from max mode, you just hit R2 instead of, you know, having to do a discharge. Anyways, so with that being said, what you're gonna want to do is, instead of doing the full discharge, whenever you begin it, press R2, and what that's gonna do is, you can see I went back in max mode, sword mode, but now my shield is glowing, and I have that icon in the upper left corner. It's a pink shield. What that means is your shield's now empowered. So basically, I believe the scaling in this game, if I remember correctly, every file is 45 seconds of having your shield. No. It might be 30 seconds per file, I don't know. 30 or 45 seconds of having your shield empowered, so. Something like that. So now what this means is, not only is your guard stronger, but your shield actually has, since I'm using impact file, it actually has the ability to stun monsters, or apply a little KO damage. But the big thing here is that it will allow you to do a super amped elemental discharge. So you would do it just like you would a normal one, except you get a much more powerful attack, like that. Now in 4 Ultimate, in previous games in general, if you did a super amped elemental discharge, it would actually take away the empowered shield effect. In this game it doesn't. However, that is not ideal in my opinion anyway, because what you want to do is, even if you have your shield empowered, you just want to do regular amped elemental discharges, because I just don't think the super ones are worth it, in my opinion. Like, they have the longest startup, and yeah, it's a powerful attack, but if you get hit during it, like during the animation, like let's say you're about to bring down the axe, and you know, you can't get your files out for some reason, the monster hits you, you get stunned, those files are gone, it's a wasted attack. Whereas if you just do one at a time, like this, even if you get interrupted, at least you'll still have some left over. Now, one important thing I wanted to note is that if you if you are going to do what I personally prefer to do, which is just throw out normal AEDs even in empowered mode. If you don't hold back on the stick, on the analog stick, whenever you're revving up the attack like that, you're just gonna default to a SAED. So bear that in mind. Always hold back on the stick whenever you do them, because otherwise you're just gonna default to an SAED. One thing I did say is how normal AEDs are best for impact files. Well, it's actually the complete opposite for elemental files. For elemental charge blades, you want to use SAEDs. So, moving on. A quick thing that quick little technique that I like if you do use SAED specifically, those. Although I guess it could work with the normal ones as well. You can do, for better repositioning on the monster, you can do triangle and then go into a sliding slash. That's what I'm gonna call it. Like that. You can do it backwards and then go into the SAED like that. Very cool. Alright. So, that's actually the, that's one thing I want to touch on real quick. The best way to build your files is to just do this normal one and then end out in the slash by hitting, in the spinning slash by hitting triangle right afterwards. So, now we're going to move on to another mechanic of the charge blade. You can only do it if your shield is empowered. So, you want to charge your files, but hold down triangle. And you'll go into that charge attack. Now, if you miss the charge, or you don't hold it down long enough, you'll just get, a weak slash. Similar to the circle move, normally. Same thing if you overcharge it. Timing's just right, like that. So what this does is, it's a pretty unique effect, because it affects all charge blades and not just impact file. It actually empowers your sword. And what this does is, for one, it might raise your damage just a little bit. Technically it does, but it actually gives your sword the ability, well, it gives your sword some stun effect on it, so you can essentially KO monsters with it. Although it's not very great, it's decent enough. The effect though does not last very long. It's already starting to go away, but you can refresh it as long as you have files. Well, the powered up shield anyway. Now, one thing I did want to touch on really quick is the fact that the powered up sword, even if you have a power element file charge blade, will still actually do impact damage. So you can still KO monsters with a elemental charge blade. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Alright. There's not too much left that I think of anyway. So the final, I guess, mechanic of the charge blade, which is probably more easily demonstrated with a elemental file charge blade. So I'm going to use the Drax shield here, which this one is a power element file, elemental file, they're the same thing. That's pretty much what I meant the entire time. So I'm just going to build my files, And then, instead of going into, whenever you go to do a AED or SAED, you want to press L2, and your character will do this animation here. What this is Savage Axe mode. It pretty much turns your normal axe moves into a sort of buzz saw in a way. As you see, the attacks hit multiple times. And the time limit on this is actually determined by the amount of files that you have. So this is the standard triangle, circle. The circle does use files, so if you plan on using this, pay attention to that. Now you can go back into sword mode and charge them, and then go right back in. It's a preferable technique compared to impact file. If a monster is especially weak to element, Savage Axe, like, well, Alatreon, Savage Axe is really good against them. So there we go. Unfortunately though, since it does hit multiple times, it has a really bad habit of killing your sharpness. So any sharpness skills are highly recommended. Now, those are all three of the special, I guess, mechanics that a Charge Blade has. Now, let's talk about the final thing. Guard points. This is where the technique really comes into play. So, what is a guard point? Well, it's essentially a specific window in set animations where your character will block automatically, I guess. That's a simple way to describe it. So, pretty much, take this barrel right here for instance. There are only 3 guard points that I know of. There is this one. At the very startup of the animation of when you're switching to axe mode, that is a guard point. So I'm going to demonstrate on the barrel here. So as you can see, I blocked. Even though it looks like a normal block, the difference though is much greater. So, what is the difference exactly? Well, the difference here is that, more so specifically if you have an empowered shield, if you guard point, or really just block in general with the empowered shield, it will actually do impact damage, a small amount of impact damage. I've actually KO'd monsters from them hitting me during guard point. So, I'm going to demonstrate the next one, which is an axe mode into sword mode. Go in axe mode. Hit the barrel, hopefully. Just like that. The spin, that move right there, is actually one of them. Finally, the third one, which is a pretty nice one considering I kind of figured it will work, but I wasn't sure, but it turns out it does. I just learned it not too long ago, literally like 30, 40 minutes ago, while I was, putting this. No, it wasn't when I was putting it together, but it was whenever I was practicing, making sure I know my stuff. So what you want to do is, you want to swipe, go in the circle. There you go. That is the third guard point. And that obviously works with any direction, whether it be backwards, frontwards, or right, I guess. As long as the animation ends with you putting your shield in front of you, pretty much, that is a guard point. It will work just like that. Very cool. One thing that I did not mention last time is that you can actually go into a you can go immediately into a AED or SAED from a guard point. So demonstrate. Just like that. Very helpful. Very helpful. You can also go into it as a normal AED, obviously. Just like that. Easy. That is a probably the most helpful thing when it comes to guard pointing, and it's definitely the way to get out damage the quickest from a guard point. I should also note that it does work with regular blocks too, but obviously, you know, guard pointing is probably the best option. Now there are a couple of things that I want to mention real quick, because I found these interesting, even though I won't ever use them, but it's pretty much whenever you it has a couple of slinger moves that you can do. You know, combo wise, you can, whenever you go straight into axe mode, you can slinger, or whenever you go straight into Savage Axe mode, you can slinger, which is very cool. So, I think I've covered everything. That was a lot, and this is probably gonna be a headache to put together because, wow, there was a lot of awkward moments. My God, awkward silence and fails. Great, fantastic. All right, yeah.